a small town in the Netherlands. I think it's fabulous to be here. It's great to see you all around the world. It's very special that that I'm invited and to speak. I've spoken before, but I read it from the paper, and in this case, um, Ivan suggested to let God talk and be me. No prep, no prep except me in the chair with my higher power standing behind me. I'm here with you all. Oh yeah, my story. I'm married to an alcoholic 30 years ago, and when I married him, it's pretty quick. Fell in love. 2 weeks later, we moved together, and within the year, we were married. I knew he did rehab for an addiction of hard drugs. Oh, he's the man who looks at his problems, and another advantage was he didn't want kids because they're alcoholics. I was, I'm incapable of having children, so I thought this is a match made, and it was. The first few years, we enjoyed everything life had to offer. Yeah, somebody in an attic and who drinks. Yep, that was not such a good idea. It escalated quickly. He couldn't stop for me himself. He wanted to change a lot of things. And he told me that in fact a lot more than I could see. And I thought that was interesting. Why? He told me he secretly in the night left he was, on disability because of his addictions. He became so ill that he had to go into the hospital. His kidneys weren't working. He was in hospital for weeks and he had to fight for his life. And from one moment to the other, the rug got pulled out from under me. It felt like the door opened up here. My whole life just came to. I contacted his family, his mother, his father, his brother. They had spoken for 2 years to us. It was painful, and I had so much shame. I was, bleeding to my toes. The situation was that we became so isolated. I would make appointments with friends, but very often the day or the day before, I would cancel, or I told them lies. I didn't want anybody to come. I didn't want anybody to come in and see what the situation was. Um, and that was something. My husband would say, "Well, when we finish the job, and when we finish our vacation, when I got a new car, and when we move, I'll stop drinking." And yeah, and it escalated. He went into the hospital. he manipulated her. Don't talk to my and I was a metal nanny because I didn't know. And he wanted tomato juice, for instance. And I would buy it. I would bring it to the hospital. And then in the end, he would throw the bottle at me and he would say, I don't want tomato juice. That's how sick he was. And I don't really want to go and tell you. He came out of the hospital and I thought that in the in there, and she had I full house support. I I thought I had cleaned up that. I thought I had it, but it wasn't. I didn't. Somewhere we've got cases, and somewhere behind the books there was some, you know, some books were better than others. And there was a space, and then there was a little spot there that he and I thought, wow, I'm going crazy. Fighting for his life. He comes home, and the first thing he does is alcohol. I didn't know what to do. I was at the end of my rope. It was like I went to psychology. I had patients there, and they the social workers said, people do something with your life. If you want to have a life, you got to get rid of it and make it lock. Got to get, and you are going to start living. That wasn't the answer I wanted to hear. Everything in me screamed, don't leave. Stay, stay with this man. Well, when I look back, it must have been my higher power who was already in my life. And without knowing it, I was already listening to the God of my understanding. I rationalize. I am really good. My thought process goes right, and the thought is, why am I? So then we're going to live like one house, everybody on their own side of the house. We don't have children. He was so. Why would I be difficult about it? If he is not going to make it, then he's going to die anyway. Bye bye to the psychologist. I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I wasn't talking to anybody. And I did talk to somebody. They had the most bizarre advice. They're like, "Oh my god, I heard about that one." And like a good wife of an alcoholic, I've been on the websites and I've been to the AA website and I found Al-Anon. So, but I always told myself, that's not me. I got enough to do. I don't want to listen to other people's problems, and I definitely do not. But nothing was working. I no other option. So on 2000, on April 5th, I came crawling across the threshold. And I was powerless. I was cursed. I had no courage. I was unmanageable. My life was unmanageable. I didn't know what to do. The first meeting, oh no, I think they all issues, and they had a lot of them. I, I felt like I felt like, and again, I first meeting, they had a smile. They had been in the same boat as I was, and they all those years I was so why ever told me about Al-Anon, that it existed. I had all those years being isolated. I was helped so curious about. I went to the Al-Anon, and he goes, "Great, yeah, good for you. You go and sleep with all those alcoholics." And he goes, and I go, well, "Hold on." So, so I had a 12-step conversation with my doctor. And I'd already been in Al-Anon for a while. And what Al-Anon is, I told him what it was. You have the 12 steps. But to get back to the first meeting, I felt safe. There was that little table on it. I didn't have much to say. There was a lot of words coming out of my mouth. I just had recognition, and I felt the bond. I felt the love that was in that room. On the other side, I was shocked because I saw the God in the literature, power greater than yourself. Like acceptance. I was still a victim, so I had a problem with it. I couldn't look at uh, that I was a victim of this situation, and that was an attitude I had.
Yvonne, I hate to interrupt. I need for you to speak up. I need for you to speak louder.
Okay. No, for me. Go ahead. At first, I had the feeling that, ooh, is this like a sect? There was something in the back of my head. But I told myself, well, if I go out, then you're going to go 6 times. That was a deal I made with myself. Because I know myself. I did know myself a little bit. But then I knew I am a wuss. I am such an incredible wuss and a coward. And I would avoid anything and everything. So when I told myself, Pia, you're going to go 6 times and that's what you're going to do, I did. And I'm so happy I did. I'm so happy I kept coming back. I've been here for a while now. Every Wednesday night, the Alkmaar group. I buy literature. I read the literature. I can't live without. And of course, this program of 12 steps and 12 traditions, and then the concepts. We've got the slogans. In the beginning, I thought it was so complicated just to even consider steps. I mean, you mean I have to work on myself? I don't have a problem. I do not have a problem. So, in the beginning years, what I learned best is the slogans, these short little sentences, and the serenity prayer. And then I've got the let go and let God card in my wallet. It is all wrinkled and damaged, but it's there. I got insight into the disease of alcoholism, how it works for my husband, and how I respond to it. We had to find a different way how to communicate. I got more insight into myself, into my patterns, my behavior. I learned I had a choice. I didn't know I had choices. It was almost like I got a little bit more balance with me and more balance in the world. But, control freak that I am, and in our groups in Alkmaar, we didn't have things like a sponsor. We never talked about sponsorship. All the books that I bought and what I did, I would translate the questions out of the English books, and then on my own, I would start going to work. I was answering the questions. I went through all the steps twice, all by myself. Pia, good job. You did it. But, something was not right. There was something that I couldn't get past. And so I found somebody, maybe I could ask her to be my sponsor. I spoke her regularly, and we had a small conversation about it, but I didn't dare. I was scared to say, would you want to be my sponsor? Could you be my sponsor? So for a long time, I was turning around the topic, and finally I got to it. And so she started laughing, and she goes, "Oh my God, Pia, how you struggled with that. That was a real fight." And she goes, "I had to keep my mouth shut and not say, I'll be your sponsor. I'll be your sponsor." She goes, "I really had to bite my lip." And so with her, again, I started to work the steps. And the beauty of that is that finally, today, I'm going deeper. I've got more time together with her to go really into the depth and look, what is it that this behavior comes from? What holds me back? I discovered that a lot of patterns of me started when I was a child. It started way back home. My mother was a very judgmental woman. She had an opinion about everybody and anybody. And I learned well from her. Where did that come from? My mother was raised by her grandmother. My mother's mother was an alcoholic. and she left the family, my invalid father and her daughter of 11. And my mother had been raised by her grandmother. I don't know if you know people from the northern part of the Netherlands, and they're very stubborn people. There's only one way, that's their way. So there wasn't much room for my mother to have choices. She didn't have choices. Anyway, my mother was also married to an alcoholic, my father. And I didn't know that. I didn't know my dad was an alcoholic. I want to take a step back and go back to my youth, because my parents owned a business. As a baby, I was already in the cradle, and they would prop the bottle, and I had to take care that the bottle wouldn't fall off, because then it would be next to me. So there was no time. They had to work, they had to make money, they owned the business, so I was not a priority. At 5 years old, I almost drowned. My next door neighbor boy had a birthday, and he got a bicycle for his birthday, and I was allowed to ride the bicycle. What happened was a car came around the corner, and Pia drove into the water, the canal, and the next door neighbor ran home, yelling and screaming, and I wasn't able to swim. I was only 5. Oh, and I got rescued. I'm sitting here, but when I came home crying, I was under the mud and dirty and wet. I looked like a drowned cat. And they laid into me. And I didn't understand why. Because I almost drowned. I needed some comfort. Um, and my mother couldn't console me and was punishing me. And later I understood that it was because of her grandmother had died, and she just found out. She could not handle her own emotions, and definitely she couldn't handle mine. So I was punished and spanked, and in the backyard she undressed me, hosed me down with the hose, and I had to hear that for a long time. What happened was that if I move ahead a couple of years, at 17 I got raped by somebody. I was on holiday with a girlfriend. I was on vacation. And I told her in the tent after dark. And she goes, "Oh my God, Pia, how great." And I was like, "What? What? No, that wasn't good." She goes, "Oh, you belong now. You're not a virgin anymore. You're part of the new club." And I was like, "Oh my God." I got smaller and smaller and smaller. And I had no feelings. And 3 years after that, wow, that was bad luck. My head said I was shut down. I entered a relationship with a man. He was a rock star. He was played in a band. He had long hair, used makeup, and I did everything, and I mean everything, to make him happy. I didn't know what a healthy relationship was. I didn't know what a healthy sexual relationship was. Nobody ever told me, and definitely not from my parents. that man, he was also an alcoholic. I um I got ill when I lived with him. I got cancer, so it was uteral cancer. So they removed my uterus, and that was something that he couldn't handle. He couldn't console me, and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't console myself. All I was doing was keep everybody upright, fix everybody. My mom had a nervous breakdown. My friend couldn't handle it. I never had much with kids, so why would I tell myself, "Oh my God, this is so bad because now you can't have them"? I thought, no, we're just gonna move along. We do everything we need to do for the cancer, and we're gonna live on, and life just continues. Eventually, I was able to leave this guy because he was starting to abuse me sexually, psychologically. He played games with my head. But I couldn't leave him because of that. I left him because he spent my money. Apparently, it was impossible for me to have a feeling about anything. I was so shut down. But I again found another alcoholic because I'm married to one. And thanks to sponsor, I can learn how to have my feelings again. I learn how to have a feeling and to discover where all my trauma and behavior comes from. About 6 months ago, I was at my mom's. I'm 59. My mom is 82. And we went away for a week, just the both of us on vacation. And my mom started talking about herself. And she told me about her upbringing. She told me about her marriage to my dad. And sometimes I am sometimes emotional incontinent. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. My mom was talking about her marriage to my dad. My dad's still alive. She told me my dad was an alcoholic, that he had affairs in the marriage. But my mom didn't want for us what was happened to her divorced parents. So she stayed no matter what. And I said, Mom, but you know about me and my husband. How come you never told me anything about this? I could feel her pain, but she didn't want to take the trust and belief away that I had in my dad. You know, I knew there was something between them, but I didn't know what it was. And so sometimes when I'm there and they had just moved, uh, what happens is that I'm sitting in the living room with my dad, and my mom is just losing it in the kitchen. She's just like crazy, and she's like, and I go, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Well, your dad, all the time, your dad." And I said, "Well, he's drinking coffee, very quiet." And she says, "Well, he didn't put the coffee machine back where it came from." And I just started laughing. That is so recognizable to me. That's what I used to do. That was exactly the behavior. I recognized myself in my mother. And all I could do was laugh. I could only view it through the eyes of love. And I thought that was so special. My parents still struggle with each other, but I'm so happy that I had learned how to have feelings and that I am discovering myself, who I am. What does Pia like? I always lived with reacting. I was always in a reaction. Um, and today I'm taking responsibility back for my life. And I know that recovery is an ongoing process. I'm never finished with it. And my sponsor says, Pia, you're there when you're not here anymore. You only have to change one thing. I'm like, ooh, just one thing? Yep, one thing. Well, what? Well, you. Just you. Okay, and that's a big job, but that's what it is. So I'm very happy and grateful that I discovered Al Anon. I think it's fabulous to do service for my group, for the area, for worldwide, because there my recovery goes on. It doesn't stop. To find healthy ways to communicate the ongoing process of that, I see it as a new way of life. It's a new way of life that I love. I love it. You may have the same thing that, I'm happy that I ran into an alcoholic because by God, I have changed so much. And you'll probably recognize that, there's a gratitude in that. And my husband, who has been sober for years, my colleagues, my family, everybody around me is happy that I'm in Al Anon and in recovery. It's very interesting that I can say of myself of a nagging crone on the highway to hell. I've been changed into a courageous woman with dignity and grace in recovery. And with that, I would like to end. Thank you guys so much. It's a very special experience to do this. Thank you so much. Billy, I think you can turn off the translation so we can all be together in the same language.